You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Welcome in episode 101 of Oilers Nation Radio. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk. Bag Milk is off today, which means I will have the hosting duties, joined alongside Rick, Nation Dan as well, or at the Danalytic, as some know him. Welcome in, Oilers Nation Radio. Before we get, we're going to talk, don't worry, we're going to talk a lot of Oilers rumors. We are going to talk about all that sort of regularly scheduled programming. But before we do, it's been quite the, and I'll use this word, and I don't think I'm even using it lightly. It's been quite the historic last 48 hours around the world of sports. I'm sure everyone listening to this knows what's happened and what's sort of sparked from, one, the murder of Jacob Blake, which has then transitioned into the Milwaukee Bucks deciding to boycott Game 5 of their series against the Orlando Magic in the NBA bubble. That spurred NBA games being canceled, Major League Baseball games being canceled, hockey games being canceled, and I'm going to give WNBA games being canceled as well. I got Naomi Osaka as well, opting out of her match in the Western and Southern Open. Basically every sport sort of coming together eventually, and we'll get into this a little bit here. I'll let you guys each have your take now, but the way I put it yesterday on Real Life was, this was one of those moments where it stopped being about sports, and it kind of showed that there are lots of moments where sports needs to be sort of pushed to the side, and there are things going on that are far more important than who's going to win the game.
Yeah, I think you said it correctly when you said it's a historic moment. I think that we've all uttered the phrase in the last 5 months that sports are a distraction, and that we need that distraction from the COVID stuff. And, you know, I really respect and admire the folks in the NBA and in the WNBA and in the MLS and the teams in the MLB, and the list goes on, that have decided that is the course of action that they would like to take to try and reignite this conversation that we've been having and need to keep having. And it's you know, I don't know if it solves everything tomorrow. It obviously doesn't, but it's just another brick in that wall of change, and, you know, hopefully moving forward as a league where, you know, specifically to NHL, a league where it's more accessible to everybody. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's more welcoming to everybody, and for us to, you know, have to sacrifice, quote unquote, watching some sports for a couple of days to keep that conversation going, and to really hopefully see some positive change. That's, you know, I'm all too happy to lose my hours at my other job, you know, to have that conversation on all of our social media channels. It's a positive thing.
Yeah, this is an interesting time for us. I think these types of situations come up once or twice in a generation, and this is our opportunity. I think I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want my entertainment, something, whatever. But we can't expect our entertainment to be at the hands of something that's going on in the rest of the world. I've also seen a lot of people get upset with people calling the NHL racist, or saying this is racist or that is racist. I think right now is an opportunity for all of us to kind of sit back. Actually, no, not sit back. This is where we need to step forward. We need to go somewhere with this. This is, you know, I have trouble putting into words exactly what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. It really confuses me what some people think.
Yeah.
You know, how people can be looking at it the way they do. This is not a political debate. This has nothing to do with politics. This is morals. This is humanity. This is our opportunity to change the world, and we all need to do it. We all need to do it together. We got to stop yelling at each other. We got to stop expecting people to do exactly what we think they should do. We need to sit down and have proper conversations. There are people out there going to say, they're not going to agree with you, but they're not going to be totally on the opposite side, you know, being pro-racist. But they're going to be like, they have questions in the middle. And you have to understand, You have to be able to figure out when they say something, when they actually are making a statement or they're actually making more of a question. And then we need to sit down with those people. And I get it. This is not they don't think this is the time or the place, but we cannot allow this to get pushed into the background again. This is not a time to escape. Yeah. There is no escaping right now. We can escape again in 2 weeks, 1 week, 10 days, whatever the hell it is. But right now, we all need to stop. We all need to work together. And we need to somehow figure out how to eliminate this in the future. And I think that with the political divide the way it is right now and how wide it is, I think that really doesn't help this at all, because it does. People like to pick and choose and say it's this side or that side or this. Really, it's none of that. We are all human beings. We're all one. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all on one team here, and we need to work together and move forward. And I get it that our entertainment is kind of swept aside, right? But these people that are playing to entertain us, they're not. They're doing it for them. They don't owe us anything. They do not owe us a damn thing. They're allowed to do what they're doing. And right now is not the time for 5 people from over here and 5 people from over here and 5 people from over there to kind of split off and kind of say the same thing. We all need to stay together to get this to progress. And I think the NHL can be a big part of this, because they are a predominantly white sport or league. And I think that it's easier for them to make a big change because they are white. Therefore, it doesn't technically. I hate saying this. I don't know how to say it, but it doesn't. It doesn't really affect them in their everyday lives. But when it doesn't affect you in your everyday lives, and you're able to still sit there and say, "No, we need change in this," that's going to be that's the route we need to go. They need to join in with the other side. Everyone needs to come together. Everyone needs to come together. And I think the NHL can really lead a group of people who aren't willing to walk with the NBA per se. And I know that sounds weird, and I'm not trying, I really wish people could try and understand what I'm trying to say. I hope they understand what I'm trying to say, because I don't know if I'm saying it properly. Yeah. But I think the NHL can really lead a group of people who necessarily wouldn't have walked with the NBA. Yeah, I think they can really lead the NHL. And when we can get those two groups together, that's when I think we can really start to make some positive steps forward.
I think the important thing here, and you hit on a lot of the really big bullet points there, Rick, the important thing is that we're having a conversation. And people can go, sports are supposed to be a distraction from this kind of stuff. And, sometimes distractions aren't a good thing. Sometimes you need to step up and look at real life and real world issues and not just sit there and talk about the game last night. And I think that's why it's good you mentioned, everyone kind of coming together as one. Yeah, there's NBA fans, basketball fans, baseball fans, football fans, but hockey fans in a predominantly white sport, it's very important that the NHL joins in to the chorus of leagues doing this, because it opens up that door for discussion to a whole nother group of people. I think that's really important. I think you said a lot of good stuff in there, Rick.
I think it was and I think that people's frustration with the NHL, at least from what I've read, and this is just, one person's opinion, but I watched a lot of people that felt like the NHL wasn't quick enough in its response to follow its brothers and sisters in the NBA and the WNBA and the MLS and MLB. But I don't think that taking a few minutes taking in a couple hours to talk to, your fellow teammates. Ryan Reeves had a phone call with the Vancouver Canucks, a lot of the Vancouver Canucks teammates, having that conversation and having a real, in-depth conversation, because not everybody agrees on every solution and everything that's happening. And that's, so I think it's, yes, would it have been great if the NHL had been like, NBA is taking the night off, so are we? Yeah, sure. Yeah. But at least they took a step forward. You don't necessarily have to celebrate them like you should the NBA and the WNBA for that movement. And I know I'm not trying to pick sides or anything like that, but the Magic were on the floor. The Magic were warming up. Yeah.
The Magic were ready to play.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
And it was kind of like the Bucks. And we have heard or read reports that so-and-so isn't very happy with the Bucks and the way they did it, because they kind of did it on their own, as opposed to, make that big phone call I think they had the next day you really could have, thrown everybody on what we're doing right now, and they would have come up with the exact same thing, right?
Right.
But, I mean, it kind of made the Magic look a little bit silly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing with everything, right? Like every decision that everybody is making in this time is what they think is best for the moment. And it's not, and it has nothing to do with, it wasn't like the Milwaukee Bucks were like, oh, we have to consider that the Orlando Magic, whatever. They made their decision and it spurred on a change that's important to happen now. But like you looked at people like attacking the Blue Jays for playing their game. The Blue Jays were playing their game when the Milwaukee Bucks decided that they weren't going to. Like it's not you have to put a little bit of context on things and remember that, the world doesn't move at the drop of a dime and some mistakes were made. Again, I'm not saying that it was perfect, but I think it's a good thing that we're having this conversation again. It's, it didn't go away since the big start of the movement all those months ago. And as a person, I tell myself, what can I do? But at the same time, it's the little things that we can do ourselves. If you see somebody being marginalized, if you see a situation, even within your own, little circle that causes you, some discomfort now because you've become aware of some things, speak up. Speak up when you're comfortable, but say something and do something if you can, because not everybody's going to be presented with that situation. But I know talking to you three boys, I know talking to most people I know, everybody's really, really aware of this stuff. And going forward, things like this, moments like this, I hope are historical moments that we look back on and we say we were on the right side of the change that was put in place by this.
Yep. The last area I wanted to touch on with this, Rick Westhead had some great tweets about the Hockey Diversity Alliance, which is one of the great things that's come out of this last 4 months in the movement, and hopefully it spurs on more changes in hockey. They've made some requests to NHL teams, and I just want to put those out there right now. One of the first was that NHL rinks be used as polling stations for the upcoming U.S. election. Also something I think you're going to start seeing and hearing more of in the NBA. The Hockey Diversity...
Yeah, it already started with Houston, I think. Yeah.
And I believe in a joint statement today, they said that they're going to work with all the teams to try and make all those arenas available for the U.S. election. The Hockey Diversity Alliance wants to see the league continue to push teams and maybe even mandate teams interview more minorities for jobs and hopefully create more of a black presence in front offices and things like that. The HDA wants the NHL to be fully transparent about those policies. They want the league to commit $100 million over 10 years to battle systemic racism. The association has suggested that the money goes towards grassroots programs, social justice initiatives, anti-racism education, youth scholarship, and executive and coach training, like all that stuff. And then there was a few other things, like they wanted some PSAs put out. They want to do black jerseys one game a year during warm-ups. That would be auctioned off for the cause. There were some people who talked about changing the blue line to black for those games as well. Like those things are good, and that's what will create awareness. But what will create change, and the area I really like, is pushing the league to hire more minorities for important positions and more teams to hire more minorities for important positions. I think that's the one, and putting money towards grassroots programs in areas where it doesn't exist, like that's only going to make the league better as well.
If you make the league and the sport accessible to everyone, you eliminate a lot of the biases that come into it when people are looking at starting hockey specifically. Hockey, we all know, is a very inaccessible sport monetarily at its very core. I hesitate to find many people in my life that were able to comfortably afford hockey their whole lives just because that's the way it is. And that can change, and that needs to change. And you're right. I think I'm glad that the HDA's proposals that have not been touched have become to light so that we can all see, like the NHL claims that it's listening and it's looking into things. We got to see some real action now. And that's the important thing coming out of all of this.
Yeah. You can only hope that the owners and the rest of the NHL take this seriously and become a catalyst in making the change that is necessary. I get how some guys get kind of some people, get kind of defensive when they say this is racist, that racist. Hockey, I don't believe, is racist. However, there is racism in hockey. And then again, hockey people, don't get too upset. Hockey is a spin-off of society, so it can't be expected to be, it's not the only area that's racist. I think we need to fix racism in society, and then that will trickle down through every branch. So, and I've always had an issue with people saying hockey's this, hockey culture, hockey culture, hockey culture. It is
it's culture
just a microcosm of society.
Yeah.
So I really don't like when people try and focus it on hockey, this or that. I think a lot of people get defensive. I know that my first instinct is to kind of get defensive. I can feel it in my chest. And then you got to stop and think and really understand what they're saying and look at it properly, not just from those words, but you need to take a wider look, a wider scope at things, and you'll understand that there's racism out there, and it's all across the globe, and it's going to spread everywhere. And yes, I would love to be able to take it out of hockey, but we can't take it out of hockey till it's out of society. And so this goes much further out of the arenas for me. And Dan said it. We need to take care of our little circles. We, as three guys on a phone right now, talking to seven guys listening, or seven people listening to us, we don't have a lot of ability to get our voices out there beyond that. However, if we take care of our circles and everyone takes care of their circle, that will get rid of everything much quicker than us being able to do what some people can do, with a news camera in their face. Yeah. So I think we need to take care of our little areas, and if everyone takes care of their little areas, this whole entire world will be a much better place.
100%, Rick. And I think that's where the whole, needing to change hockey, it's right on board with that. It's, as hockey fans and hockey players out there and all that, like, you take care of your circle. Let's take care of hockey. And if, hockey takes care of hockey, basketball takes care of basketball, and every walk of life takes care of their circle, it'll be a much better world. This is episode 101 of Oilers Nation Radio. As always, we are brought to you by the fine folks at Sherwood Ford the Giant. I believe we gave away was that an autographed Ryan Nugent-Hopkins jersey we gave away with Sherwood Ford the Giant the other day?
It was.
It was beautiful. So lucky Nation citizen went home with that. Shout out to Sherwood Ford the Giant for helping us get that all set up as well. Check them out, Twitter, Instagram, Sherwood Ford the Giant. My mic just cut out really bad there when I leaned over. It's big news today in Edmonton. Finally, after all of this waiting, we finally got the 50-50 number announced. Holy shit. Darren Ravel, who he's the big sports business guy, he tweeted out, Edmonton Oilers 50-50 raffle winner from last game of team season will win a tax-free record prize of $5.4 million, worth more than every player on the team's salary but two. I tweeted him back. I said, 4 Oilers make more than that if you use their AAV. Darren Ravel, who has like 2-point-something million followers, actually just tweeted me back and said, nope, not after taxes. And I said, using their AAV, Darren. So shut up, Darren Ravel. But $5.4 million after taxes is the number we saw out there. I believe the prize is $7.1 million. But, man, the Oilers really stretched that thing out, eh?
Hey, why are they getting taxed on this?
Well, that too. I thought you didn't get taxed on lottery
winnings. You don't get taxed on lottery winnings.
That might be Americans tweeting about
hold up.
Canadian prizes.
Yeah. No, like, you win... No. You win 50 mil in the Lotto Max?
Unless they're saying...
80 mil.
He's talking... He converted it into US dollars, I think. What the fuck?
No, let's go the other way. We'll go there. We'll go down there.
Darren and Tyler are going to fight.
Let's send... we got to send them a notebook on the ways in Canada.
Yeah, he converted it to US dollars. Okay, Darren, whatever, man. Anyways, that's a shitload of money.
He's pissed when he hears this.
When Darren listens to this podcast, he's going to be livid. 7.1 schmillion Canadian dollars. That's a lot of money.
I'm still doing the podcast after winning, so there you go. Right?
You gotta wait a little bit of time for the check to clear and everything, right?
Yeah. Can I ask you guys the same question that probably every like FM radio host and person sitting around a fire is asked? You get $7.1 million. What's your first sort of splurge? Like everyone is going to do the, oh yeah, I'd buy, a nicer car. I'd buy a house and all of that. But what's your splurge? Like what's the one where it's unnecessary as fuck and you are only buying it because you have $7.1 million?
I'm buying a hotel in Vegas just so that I can always go and stay there.
Oh, just like one hotel room or whatever?
Just like just like a shitty hotel.
Like
just
the whole thing?
Like a C-list hotel. Yeah, absolutely. Make a little cash off of it, right?
How much are you going to spend on that?
$7 million.
Can't be that expensive now.
You spend $100,000.
In the middle of a pandemic.
You go into any casino, drop $100,000 on one deal. They'll give you whatever the hell you want in there.
That's a good
Surely Motel 8.
You know what you do? You know what you do
right now.
Is you go and you buy Fight Island. Okay, get the hell away from everybody else right now with all this COVID shit. You bring your friends on over. You fill it
Fire
up with
Island.
Oh yeah, that's that thing on Netflix. You fill it up with your friends and your family or whoever you want there, and you sit back for 6 months. You sit back for a year. You put your feet up. You enjoy. You let things calm down a bit, and then you strategize how to spend the rest of your money.
Smart play, Rick.
Thank you.
I don't know.
What about you, Tyler?
I didn't say I'd actually last that 6 months out there, but
what would I do? I think it's tough right now in times of COVID, but I'd probably get like a really nice golf membership somewhere in the city. That'd probably be something I would do like in that first calendar year after winning. And like,
is that a splurge though?
Oh, if whatever the nicest club here is in Edmonton, I'm getting in there. I'm getting the max membership. I am doing the full shebang. And for one summer, I am living like a goddamn king, and probably for a lot of summers after that as well. But I would just probably golf a lot. That would always be my splurge. I'd golf like 3-4 times a week.
You buy hole 17 and you call it the Urem Chuck It In hole. And there you go. That's a splurge.
All right. Well,
buy the naming rights to the hole on your own golf course.
I believe I had someone tell me once that because I was talking on the radio about how much it costs to build a golf course. I heard the rough estimate is usually $1 million a hole in Alberta for how much it costs. So you wouldn't have enough to build a golf course on your own, but maybe invest in one or something like that. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Like that's a good golf course. Like you could build a decent frisbee golf course for $500,000.
Fair enough. All right, we got the 50-50 talk
golf, right?
out of the way. Let's dig into some hockey talk here. We're 22 minutes into the podcast, so some of you are probably saying about time, but we got the Sherwood Ford Giant Question of the week, courtesy of our friends at Sherwood Ford. Goaltending seems to be the talk of the town. I've written 2 or 3 articles about it. It feels like every time you go onto Oilersnation.com, there is an article in there about the Oilers trying to acquire a goaltender. So the question this week is, out of the available goaltenders, who would be the best fit here in Edmonton? And I put the word available in there because I don't want you to be like, well, Carter Hart would be the best available or would be the best fit here in Edmonton. Like, out of those realistic options that we've sort of seen thrown into the rumor mill over the last couple of weeks, who would you want the Oilers to go out and get? Matt Murray, Tristan Jarry, Robin Lehner, Antti Ranta's one of them. Jacob Markstrom could very well be an unrestricted free agent. Not sure if that's realistically going to happen, though. But which goaltender? I'll let you go first, Dan. Is there one that jumps off the page and you go, you know what, they got to get this guy?
Well, I wasn't even really thinking of it until I think somebody mentioned it to you on Twitter about the Arizona goaltending situation.
It was original Puzar. I'll give him credit.
Now, Puzar, of course. It's one of those things where you look at that situation. That team just lost their first round draft pick. They lost their second round draft pick. They've already traded that stuff away for Taylor Hall. There's another deal that they did. So they're without a first or a second round pick for the next 2 years. You got to think that a new GM coming into that situation probably wants to recoup some of those assets and start building his own team, right? So why not be going after that team, especially when they're already looking at, there's already rumors that they're going to be getting rid of OEL. So you got to think if they're looking at getting rid of him, that they're not really looking at competing anytime currently. So why not go after one of their goalies? I think that's the situation that you got to go after if you're going for an ideal situation.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point there. The Oilers don't have a ton of draft picks to trade away, but the thing with Arizona, they're always trying to cut costs. And the trade proposal that was tweeted to me was, you work Chris Russell into the deal because he's making $4 million, but he has that big signing bonus attached to him as well. So do you swing Russell for Ranta? It's even on the caps, and the Coyotes actually have to end up paying a less chunk of money. The Oilers probably have to throw in some sort of asset as well. But for me, I'll go here. Ranta's real interesting because I think he might be the easiest one to acquire. If you're letting me sort of pipe dream a little, you got to be just drooling at the idea of getting one of those guys out of Pittsburgh. A 26-year-old goaltender, or 25 in the case of Jari, who can come in and be your starter for the next 5, 6, 7 years even. Like, that would just help this organization so much. What say you, Rick?
Does Ranta, his injury past, scare you at all?
No, because you would have Koskinen still, I think, in this situation.
Yeah, but if he's had all those injuries and they keep going, then it's his value might not be exactly what you moved.
His value might be even lower because he's coming off a year when he was hurt, and if you get him and he manages to stay healthy, he's a legitimate starting goaltender, I think.
Yeah, if he's able to stay healthy, I'm all for it. I think the team and I don't know exactly how you go about doing it, but nobody asked me that part. So the team I think I go to is your Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they have 2 goaltenders there. They can't keep 2. They have some holes to fill in their lineup, as you can tell by their relatively early exit in the playoffs. And I think that is an obvious area of strength that they can end up moving. So I would have to say, I think we go to Arizona. UFAs really scare me. We don't have a great track record there. You overpay, you overterm.
Yeah.
I like making the trade for someone younger. Somebody, both these guys in Columbus are both 25, right? They both fit right into the nucleus of the Oilers right now. It looks like a perfect match, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think I think now is the time to make that big splash, though, because you're looking at an expansion draft.
Dude, I'm moving 14. I'm moving number 14 this year for a goalie.
Yeah, if the opportunity is there, because then you got to think that Mikko Koskinen is a good goalie.
Yeah,
and he's got his contract isn't great, but when you're an expansion team, you don't really care about that. There's not going to be a ton of teams, I don't think, left when the expansion draft comes around that's going to have a second goalie that's exposed, that's worth diving after more than Mikko Koskinen hopefully could be. So, or this goalie could be if that experiment failed and Mikko is your number one goaltender. But I think now is the time to make that move. And you start having to think about your window around these guys. I know it sounds negative to say that stuff, but
true.
But honestly, it's time to make that move now. Like we've been preaching patience for a while, and Ken Holland,
we are in win now.
Yeah, we are in win now mode. So you got to make that move if it's available, and you try and figure out how to recoup the draft pick somewhere else.
Yeah, and I agree. I would really consider trading 14 for a young goalie who's proven he can play at the NHL level. Jari, Murray, Merzlikins, or Korpisalo. That I would just be worried that then you're not picking for so long in the draft. So I do that trade if I can recoup, if I know I'm going to be able to recoup a pick. And if you're going to Pittsburgh, they just traded their first rounder to Toronto. So you're not going to get a first back from them in any sort of deal. But the Columbus one is interesting for a couple of reasons. We know they liked Andreas Athanasiou at the trade deadline. He almost went there. So if the Oilers have Athanasiou dangle this trade bait, Edmonton's picking 14, Columbus is picking 21st overall in the draft. They don't have a second or third rounder, and there would have to be a couple more pieces sprinkled in here somewhere. But what if it's something around Athanasiou and 14 overall in exchange for whatever goalie Columbus doesn't want and 21 overall? The Oilers might have to add a little bit still there, but I think that might be, that's sort of the framework I'm thinking for acquiring a goaltender. And the next topic was, how much would you be willing to give up? You guys both answered that for me already. I would give up the first if I know I can recoup another first somewhere. I'm okay with picking in the late 20s if I'm getting a goalie as well, but I'd be worried about outright trading out of the first round.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. I like that deal you just came up with right there. I think it definitely solves our issues. Yeah. Still keeps us in the first round for that. Hopefully, a scoring winger, right? I think that's kind of where we need to go when it comes to that draft pick, anyways. I can get behind that. The only other team I'll say is I know Hank is almost done, but the Rangers have 2 young ones out there too, right?
Yeah.
It just might be a little more expensive and tougher to get him out of there.
Georgiev had a bad year, though. So maybe you look at Alexander Georgiev coming off a bad year, pending RFA, and you go, you know what, now's the time to get him if we believe in him, and our scouts say he has what it takes to be a legitimate starting goaltender. Maybe I'm worried because he didn't have a good year, and there's a part of me that wonders if Hank might just hang him up. If he might, or maybe he comes up with some, you know what, I got a leg problem, put me on LTIR, I'm done. Like, I wonder if the Rangers might give him the old wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Can you leave a year early to really help us out here? I don't know. But I think, like, are we all kind of consensus on we'd rather see them cough up the assets for a young goalie than go hard after Lehner and have to give him $7 million over 4 years?
Yeah, we've done that before. We should have learned our lessons by now. Didn't really, Mike Smith was Mike Smith.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out with Happy Bulin back in the day. I think the best opportunity here is just to make that trade and try and bring someone in around the same age as the rest of the nucleus, and let's roll like that.
Yeah, I think it's just we're all kind of in agreement here that you're going after. It makes for great radio, but yeah, it's just the reality, and I can't imagine there's many listeners that are saying, no, don't look at a goalie. We need defense or something. Like, we're not talking about trading Oscar Klefbom for a goalie here. It's
not talking about making Klefbom at all.
Well, making a lateral move for a goalie instead of selling the farm and selling the actual team in place.
Yeah.
But if you can make a deal for that first round pick, you got to do it.
This is Oilers Nation Radio. As Dan said, it's not great radio, but I like to think it gets the job done. We are brought to you by Skip the Dishes. Friday, at least in my household, is always Skip the Dishes night. It's always just, I ain't cooking, I ain't cleaning. I am getting someone to drive to my door and drop off whatever I want. Hundreds of restaurants in the Edmonton area available on skipthedishes.ca, or you download the app. It's the best way to get food.
It's like one of those things. Do you value your time enough? You should. You absolutely should. There's lovely folks at Skip the Dishes that are ready and willing, and they're already out there on the road
supporting the local
food for you.
We're just trying to support the local economy.
You can get our other sponsor, Yegburger, on there. You can get Oodle Noodle on there as well. All right, moving along on Oilers Nation Radio, episode 101. Bag Milk's off today, so it's just the three of us trying to piece our way through an episode. Bag Milk, for those of you who listen to the podcast, he does absolutely all the work for this thing. So when he lets us know at like 9 o'clock he can't make it, we are pretty much scrambling up until the time we record. I want to talk a little bit about some other teams in the Oilers division here. The Calgary Flames bounced out of the bubble. Were they out last time we recorded, or no? They hadn't been eliminated yet, right? Last Friday. Time moves.
No, I don't think they're quite out.
The world has changed.
Yeah.
I tweeted my video of the Game 6 collapse on August the 21st. So that was
7 days ago.
7 days ago.
Okay, well,
that happened.
Yeah, Friday.
So we did talk about it then, I guess.
It was after we recorded then.
Yeah, right after we recorded. I think some changes gotta happen in Calgary, and I think changes will. And this is an Oilers podcast, but Calgary's in the division, and it's always a big story when they make moves. Do you guys think we've seen Johnny Gaudreau play his last game in a Flames sweater?
I think they should have. I think a leader like that put up no points, 5-on-5.
Second straight year he's been bad in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I think you need to. Personally, I'd like to see them keep him forever.
Yeah.
But if we're speaking from their perspective, I think you need to cut bait, move on. But you got to be careful, man. It's that's a pretty big piece you're dealing with, and you better get back what you're moving out.
I don't know. I don't see it. I can't imagine many teams. But I can't imagine many teams look at the bubble hockey as like a real, true you know what I mean? It's literally happening inside of a bubble. It's happening in a different universe than what you're used to, and I think most teams would hopefully expect to be back in some kind of sense of normalcy next year, by come playoff time, which is going to be obviously, around the summertime as it is.
What was the excuse for not showing up last year in the playoffs?
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like I look at him like an Everly type. I think this is one of those ones where if they got rid of Johnny Gaudreau, I'm not saying that he's a world shaking player, But I think if they got rid of him, they're going to regret it. Whatever deal they make, it's going to be 60 cents on the dollar kind of deal, because Gaudreau hasn't shown up when it matters. And so the newspaper clippings from Eric Francis are there. But it's just, I don't see it happening. I don't think a lot of teams, like the Penguins shocked me. Like that move was just kind of,
it was weird.
It just doesn't make sense. And who the hell makes the Toronto Maple Leafs look good in any deal? Come on.
Hey, the Leafs haven't won a damn thing. Why is everyone getting so jacked up?
But Pittsburgh overpaid for Kapanen.
If we got a first round pick right now, if we got a first round pick for Tyler Ennis,
that's basically the equivalent's Athanasiou here. It's getting if the Oilers dangled Athanasiou right now and got a first for him, that'd be nuts.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I mean, you're paying for a player who could really light it up with either one of those centermen, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But Pittsburgh has to, like, we're talking about our window being short, and the Pittsburgh Penguins
Pittsburgh's won a bunch, right? So they're trying to win right now. They're in like the last couple of years of Detroit mode, I think.
Yeah. But this is what happened to Detroit, and then Detroit, started making deals with guys that they couldn't handle. And you look at Rutherford's resume is woeful in the last few years for trades. I don't have it up here. I think it was Gregor that actually tweeted the list of trades that he's made. Let me bring it up. You guys banter about something here.
Well, I know exactly what list you're talking about, and I'm not going to help it out because I don't remember anything. But I know there were one or two on there that weren't horrendous, and there were a couple that weren't great. But I mean, you can't go down with a bat on your shoulders, right? I'd rather have a guy who swings and misses rather than Tambellini who keeps his bat on his shoulder.
No, but you hated Chiarelli because he swung and missed all the time.
You can't go swing at everything. But I don't see, that wasn't like a Taylor Hall trade though to me.
Okay, well here it is. So he's traded Oli Mata for Cahoon and a fifth. He traded Phil Kessel, Burks, and a fourth for Galchenyuk and Joseph. He traded a sixth round pick for Marino. That's a win. Goodbranson for Martinson and a seventh. Galchenyuk and Addison and a first for Zucker.
Jeez.
Blandisi for Verone. A third round pick for Patrick Marleau. Cahoon for Sheary and Rodriguez. Plus the Kasperi Kapanen. I mean, he got Pontus Aberg, so you can't be too upset about that. But I don't know. It's just like Tyler said. He's got kind of a tinge of Chiarelli to him, where he's making these moves to try and
how many cups does he have?
Well, and yeah, that is interesting too, because he's built a winner there in Pittsburgh, or you could say, the team won with him there. I don't know. You're right.
And the Kessel trade he had to make, did he not?
Kessel kind of wanted
that. That was kind of the end of the run.
But it's expanding. It expands on these like you said with the Detroit Red Wings, where there's a team that had some moderate success and they're trying to keep the dream alive.
Moderate success. They won like 3 cups in 10 years.
No, 100%.
Or maybe a little more than that.
That's successful for sure.
Yeah,
but
very more than moderate.
7 years ago? We're talking 6-7 years now?
At least.
Haven't we had a new Stanley Cup champion the last 6 years, and now we're going to have another one this year? Like so it's I don't know. I get it because you have the formerly the best player in the world, and Evgeny Malkin as well. You understand that you want to sit on that, but at the same time, it's like, man, like, why are you trading a first round pick for
Whoa, guys.
It's back fucking thank God I don't have to host this anymore.
Nowhere.
A little poppin'. No, buddy, you're hosting.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies. I was just taking a little. I had to do a little business call there.
Guest interview here.
Well, feel free to interview me all you want, Tyler. I'm here and prepared to answer questions.
Okay, let's run you through the Oilers topics we've touched on so far. Which available goaltender, this is the Sherwood Ford Giant question, by the way, which available goaltender would be the best fit here in Edmonton? Which one do you want to see them go get?
I like the idea of Tristan Jarry, but I also read on Twitter yesterday Korpisalo might be available out of Columbus, so that would be super intriguing to me.
What's the most you'd give up for it? Like, would you part with the 14th overall pick for one of those two?
Ooh, I think you'd have to, wouldn't you?
It'd probably be real close.
But Tyler's got a great spin on it though.
Like goalies don't usually go for too much in trades. Like you have the examples of like Corey Schneider for 9th overall, but like even John Anderson when Toronto traded him or when Anaheim traded him to Toronto, he went for a late first and a late second. So the idea I had was Andreas Athanasiou, because we know Columbus likes him, and 14th overall to Columbus for Korpisalo and pick 21 in the draft. So the Oilers trade down 7 slots. They also swap out Athanasiou for Korpisalo. Maybe Edmonton has to throw in another piece somewhere in that deal, but it probably isn't too significant.
I do that. I mean, to be honest, it'd be a bummer to give up on Athanasiou that quickly, just because we didn't really get to see what he could do at all.
But you're almost not really giving up on him. You're just spending him to fill a gaping hole you need. You're taking an asset and you're using it to fill a hole that you really need.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So yeah, I would make that trade, Tyler.
Interesting.
I like the idea of getting that first round back.
Yeah.
Me too. I think sliding down 7, I mean, like, let's be honest, the draft is such a crapshoot at the best of times, especially as you get later and later and later and later. So I think that, you know what, how much different is a 21st overall as opposed to a 14th overall? And chances are probably not that much.
Yeah. I mean, don't tell Columbus that. I mean, maybe there's even an option for a 3-way trade there where Columbus initially takes 21, slides down to like 27. Maybe they get a second rounder for doing that, and then they do that deal with Edmonton. I don't know. I think Holland will have to get creative because he doesn't have a lot of assets, right? Like, he has pick 14. That's kind of it for the draft picks he can deal here in the next couple of years, unless he trades next year's first rounder. You're not dealing Bouchard or Broberg. You're not dealing Yamamoto. Like, there's not really a lot for them to trade here.
No, not really. There's really not. And I think that, I think Rick probably said it last week or something like that. Like, eventually you have to be open to trading these picks if you want to get better now, as opposed to having to wait who knows how long.
Yeah,
right?
no, we're in a win now situation. We need to start winning now.
And I think that if you are spending that kind of trade equity, if you will, on a goaltender, you better make sure that you get it right.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Because, I mean, that's a position that the Oilers have, since Roley really was here, it's been like a revolving door of a bunch of different guys. I mean, Cam Talbot obviously had a little run in there as well, but like, they really haven't had a guy who's been here long term for a long time. So that's a position I'd love to see them get locked down.
Dude, even Roley wasn't here for a long time.
No, he really wasn't at all.
Right? When they kind of gave up on him to dive into the Javi Bulin pool.
Well, and that was hilarious at the time.
I didn't really like that move.
I hated it at the time too, because I remember the thinking was like, oh, Roley was like, what was he? He was like 38 or something at the time. And then they're like, well, he wants a 2-year contract. You can't give a 2-year contract to that guy. And then they flip it around and turn Javi Bulin into whatever it was. It was,
an injury riddled Javi Bulin.
Did he retire right after Edmonton?
Let me look it up.
Somewhere else. He must have played somewhere else. We would definitely know. I feel like we would know if
Tampa
he was...
Bay, was that his last stop there? Chicago.
Actually, no. So Chicago, he only played 4 games in 2013, 2014 after leaving Edmonton. So he basically, for all intents and purposes, shut it down.
Why did he only play 4? Was there an injury there?
I would imagine so.
He also had a 5.0 goals against average and an 811 save percentage.
Which is pretty sweet.
811, wow.
No problem, boys. Just go out and score a touchdown every single game and we'll be all right.
The last area we touched on before you got in here, Bag Milk, was just, do you think Johnny Gaudreau's played his last game for the Calgary Flames? Do you think we're going to see big shakeups from Calgary this offseason?
Yeah, I do. I think this is the last game that Johnny Gaudreau played in Calgary, and I think that they're going to think whatever they get back in return is going to be adequate to fill the hole that he, the playoff scoring aside, the guy still produces in the regular season, and I think they're going to lose the trade no matter what they do for it.
They need to do it. They swap it for a defenseman and try and figure out the offensive hole in a different way. Takes the pressure off the defenseman, but they have an issue with their D, man. Like, you got to hide behind a number one D for a while, and I think Giordano has somehow raised their perspective up over the time he's been there, but he's at the end of his line. That defense is in a lot of trouble. They've got some offensive pieces. Try and get your defenseman in there, get that big defenseman, and then try and figure out the offense some other way.
Yeah, I mean, like Gio's, I'm looking at it, he turns 37 in October, so there's not much tread left on those tires.
Oh, you mean Giordano?
Giordano.
That's right. Yes.
All
And
right.
look at Dan, fresh haircut too. Good for you, buddy.
Thanks. I went to Sport Clips, Sherwood Park.
Nice.
Shout out Sport Clips.
Absolutely.
Okay, the last area before we get to our Yegburger hot and cold performers of the week. Just looking at some areas here. The RFAs has been something that's been written about a lot recently over on Oilersnation.com. So the three big ones here, because there are a few, percolating in the minors and all that, but the three big ones are Bear, Benning, and Athanasiou. So I wouldn't mind just quickly doing a little roundtable going on each name here. We'll start with Andreas Athanasiou. Just kind of give me what do you think is going to happen? What would you like to see happen? I'll start with you, Dan.
I mean, you can't qualify the guy, so you got to get him to agree to something more sensible with, ideally like a one in front of it, but I don't think that that's possible. So I imagine that there's a team out there that just wants to take a flyer on him and pay him some cash, and, all the best to him.
Rick?
I think you look at flipping him. For his price tag, it's a big gamble to slot him in the lineup with that kind of dollar amount to him. So I think you try and find a team out there with another RFA who may fit exactly what we need, who might be that third line center. I don't know exactly where you go, or you get him in, you put him in that part of that goalie deal we're talking about. But I have a hard time seeing him taking the pay cuts, and therefore I see it being tough to fit him into the lineup.
Bag milk?
I think he signs a 1 year show me deal somewhere like 2.1, 2.2 or something like that. That would still give the Oilers another 1 more year of restricted free agency on him before he becomes a UFA in 2022. That would be my bet. I bet Uncle Ken's like, listen, we can do the arbitration route if you want to. You had a horrible year. I don't want to roast you in front of an arbitrator.
Fair enough. I was chatting with my buddy who's a big Habs fan, diehard Habs fan. And we were talking, and he was like, do you think the Oilers and Habs can make a trade this offseason? And I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, really interested in Domi. And I was like, what do you think the Habs would say to Athanasiou for Max Domi? And he was like, oh, they do that in a heartbeat. They want Domi out of there. They need a winger. And I was like, seriously? You think they'd do that in a heartbeat? And he was like, yeah, they would love to get him.
Call them right now.
Yeah,
Someone,
no
do we have another line here? Someone get someone on the damn phone.
What was the line
trade right now?
What was the line of thinking? Why do they want to get rid of Max Domi?
Because Domi apparently really wants to be a centerman moving forward, and the Habs have a lot of centermen, and he said they wouldn't mind getting some more speed on the wings, and they're a little bit weak on the wings as well. Domi's an RFA at the end of the year as well, so the contract thing might get interesting there. So I threw that at him, and he was like, yeah, I think the Habs would definitely do that. No-brainer. And I was like, no-brainer from your perspective? Because that's a no-brainer from the Edmonton perspective.
That's weird. But you know what I think? This is my prediction. This is my bold prediction for the offseason whenever that actually happens. I think there's going to be a lot more player movement than we necessarily expect, because there's a lot of teams that are pressed up against the cap that are going to be selling for pennies on the dollar. It's just like that Toronto trade. You know what I mean? Where it was like, they got a first round pick, but that was all about cap space.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot of those deals this year, because I'm looking at puckpedia.com, and there are a lot of teams that are hugging the cap right now.
I agree with you. And Dan was sort of talking about how much will teams read into performances in the bubble, since it was a completely different universe. And there's a part of me that goes, yeah, if GMs have a nice level head, they'll be like, you know what? That was a weird pandemic year. We shouldn't do anything crazy. Don't blow it up. But GMs often don't have level heads. And I think I agree with you, Bag Milk. I think we'll see a ton of player movement this offseason.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more interesting than maybe we expect, because if teams do have some cap space available heading into this offseason, like I'm looking at, what is Steve Yzerman going to do in Detroit? Because they've got a ton of space right now. He can probably be picking up guys for pennies on the dollar.
Or even going the route
I was going to say he might take off people's problems and for a draft pick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying it at the exact same time.
That was fun. Dude, I think we really need Alex Pietrangelo to not sign in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
If he doesn't sign in Toronto, that's really going to send things into left field. I think if he doesn't sign there, they're going to start thinking about overpaying. And we have a right-handed shot defenseman over here.
Of them we could move.
Yeah, I mean, there's two guys that I would like to move out there. One being number 4. Not realistic. However, At least to Toronto, I don't think it's very realistic. However, I think that, and I love the player if he was healthy. The back injury too kind of scares me.
Yep.
And then getting that money off the table. We can do something there. I think Toronto might. I know everyone's getting behind Dubas here, but if you start putting out those blue collar players, I think you might be able to convince them to overpay.
I think it would also be hilarious if Toronto signed Alex Pietrangelo, because they would have so much money tied up in so few players that it would just be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't see a way where they're going to find enough money to do that. But
like, they would have to clear out all kinds of shit.
Well, if they want Pietrangelo, they have to trade Nylander. Like, if you look at their cap situation, that's the only way that can happen. They need to trade Nylander if they want Pietrangelo. So maybe there is a scenario where they sign him and then it's like, all right, guess we got to move on from Nylander, even though Dubas, promised him he wouldn't trade him.
But then if they do have to trade Nylander, what does that trade even look like? You're going to trade Nylander for just like
players on ELCs?
Space?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, that would be hilarious.
It would be. I was gonna say we should go through the other RFAs, but on the fly, I'm kind of thinking we should just do an RFA a week, because that'll bring us like nice up and close to the start of the offseason. So we're not going to talk about Benning or Bear. We're going to save those for the next couple of weeks here. Instead, I'm going to get my buttons ready, and we are going to play everyone's favorite game. It is the Yegburger Hot and Cold Performers of the Week, brought to you by the fine folks at Yegburger. It is Edmonton's best burger joint. Different milkshakes featured every month, different burgers featured every month, or if you got a favorite on that menu, like the return of the Mac Burger, the classic 152 burger, maybe you love the chicken burger. Those are always there, and they are always good because you get quality at Yegburger. All right, let me get my buttons here. And there we go. All right. We're going to, as always, as Bag Milk would say if he were here, rest his soul. We're going to start with the veggies. And I'll start with you, Rick. Who's your cold performer of the week?
So, cold performer of the week, I'm going to go with drivers. I live on like a little avenue, and at one end of it, they're building a condo, right? So if the road is closed, you can't drive through there. So at the top of it, there's a road closed sign. No left turn here, no right turn. You can't get through there. Do you know how many times I watch cars turn there, come on down, all the way down to the construction site, stop, look confused, pull a shit hook, and then get the hell out of there? Like, people, it says road closed. Why are you turning? And it's honestly in your lane. You have to drive in the opposite lane, the oncoming traffic lane, to get around it. So I'm going out to Edmonton drivers. Let's pay attention, people. Come on.
Worse.
Dan, your cold performer of the week?
Well, I feel like it's been another one of those weeks where it's like, did this really happen this week? But it's Alan Walsh, player agent for Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh, fuck, that was this week, wasn't it?
Putting out an image of his player the night before, the day before they played a playoff game, just absolutely sewering Marc-Andre Fleury's head coach, forcing his player to have some stupid conversations the next day about, how we've been friends since we were 14 and all this other weird nonsense. But anyways, Alan Walsh, for not going far enough. There's a plot twist. I thought he should have made like a video or something where, like in that typical Golden Knights fashion where it was just like overproduced and overwhelming with the pyrotechnics and stuff. And then it ended with the sword in the chest of Marc-Andre Fleury. So Alan Walsh, my cold performer of the week.
What? Bag Milk?
Cold performer of the week is the hilarious 50-50 debacle. To me, it was so funny that they made an announcement that it was like, all right, Wednesday at 4:00, here we come. And then Wednesday at 4:00, they're like, oh yeah, it's still not fixed. So we'll see you later. We'll see you later. And I just thought it was so funny because the Oilers at this point, now the 50-50 winner has been announced. However, the Oilers got knocked out 3 weeks ago. So, that's pretty hilarious to me. Cold performer of the week, 50-50.
My cold performer of the week, it's going to go to Alain Vigneault, the coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Whoa, did anyone else hear that? Was that me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, my cold performer of the week is going to Alain Vigneault. First off, he was just kind of being a jackass at the end of the Montreal-Philadelphia series. And I didn't like that very much, chirping Brendan Gallagher when he had a broken jaw and couldn't play anymore. But also, He came out the other day to a press conference, and when he was asked about the social justice issues, he said, I don't know what's going on in the outside world. Like, really, man? That's your cheap little cop-out? If you want to sit there and give cliches all day, that's okay. You know, if you really don't want to talk about it, have a cliche ready to go. Say you've talked to the team and it's an important issue and move on. But don't sit there and be like, oh, I don't know what's happening. I'm not talking about that. Like, I thought it was cheap. I thought Alain Vigneault kind of showed the type of person he was over the last 7 days. So he is my cold performer of the week.
I'm upset.
Time for the hot performers of the week now. And I'll go the reverse order here and start with you, Bagged Milk.
My hot performer of the week is I'm going to give players in pro sports the hot performer of the week for using their platform to do the right thing and speak for for racial equality. I thought that they have an opportunity to speak their mind to a lot of people that may not necessarily want to have the conversations that need to be had. And I think that it's really important that they use their platform to do it. So hot performer was the players that took it upon themselves.
Rick.
I'm going a little lighter here, but I think this is going to make everybody smile, and it takes us back to whenever our last Vegas trip was. But my hot performer goes out to Mr. Jay Downton and his dance moves.
That's a good one. That was a good video.
That video. Oh man, like I'm telling you, there were too many actual choreographed moves for him. Like if you just kind of like got out of the way and said, "Hey Jay, let your hips do the thing," I think he'd be a little more comfortable in there. But either way, I think it was absolutely hilarious watching. That dude's had one hell of a summer, and he's doing great work for everybody.
I want to hear Cotton Eye Joe one more time.
Please.
Dan, your hot performer of the week.
Before we get to Dan, if you want to see that video of Jay dancing, go to @OodleNoodlegram on Instagram or Oodle_Noodle on Twitter. I'll be sharing it from the nation a couple of times. I'll be memeing Jay like crazy. It's just Oodle Noodle's raising a lot of money for charity over these past few months, and he's being a good sport about it. So yeah, it was hilarious.
Dan, your hot performer of the week.
Yeah. My hot performer of the week, I hate to do it, but it's the Toronto Maple Leafs for going out and getting themselves a first round pick for a guy that just wasn't worth it. You know, they saw an opportunity, and I think a lot of us when we saw that the Penguins were getting Kapanen, assumed that like somebody bad or some dead weight was coming back to the Leafs. But no, they went out, they got some cap space cleared, and they got the 15th overall pick, and they'll be picking right after us and hope we take whoever they were going to take. So my hot performer of the week is the Leafs.
Fair enough.
That was hot. That's hot.
My hot performer of the week, I guess sometimes it can be hard when there's rights deals involved and all of that, but I thought Kelly Rudy and Christine Simpson as well, but Kelly Rudy's clip ended up going viral. The words he shared on the NHL broadcast the other day, he didn't care if the network he was working for was the rights holder, what the backlash could have been. He said what he thought, what he felt, what a lot of us felt as well, and it's that there shouldn't have been hockey games that night. And I just want to applaud Kelly Rudy for doing such a great job of saying the right thing, even when it might not be easy to say the right thing. And I think looking at that's probably a lesson a lot of us could learn, and something a lot of us could continue doing there. So shout out to Kelly Rudy for his role on the broadcast the other night.
Put some respect on my name.
All right, there you go. Episode 101 of Oilers Nation Radio. Bagged Milk, thanks for jumping in at the end. It was like a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it was like, you know what? I wrapped up my call with the fine folks over at Oddshark, and I was just like, I looked at the clock, and I thought I had time. And I want to bring a little real life into Oilers Nation Radio, where just pop in unexpectedly.
Why not? Why not? Rick, Dan, thanks for your time as well. Have a good weekend, boys.
You as well.
See you, boys.
Shout out, Damien.
Shout out to Sherwood Ford as well, our wonderful sponsor. Shout out to everyone listening along at home. This has been episode 101 of Oilers Nation Radio. Enjoy your weekend.
Best wishes.
Shout out, Damien.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media to stay up to date and never miss a podcast.